So we've hit 6:05. Sean, can you just give us a heads up for when um, the stream is live?
Yeah, I just went ahead and started it.
Wait, so are we good? Sorry, I just.
Oh, we're good. We're good.
Okay, cool. Hi everyone. Thank you guys for. Oh, sorry. Okay. Hi everyone. Thank you guys for joining us today. We're super excited to have you all here on Zoom and our YouTube live stream. And today we'll be hosting our Fireside chat with Jessie Woolley-Wilson, the president and CEO of DreamBox Learning. Prior to DreamBox, she held executive positions at leading EdTech companies, including Blackboard, LeapFrog, and Kaplan. And she's also supported the broader education community by serving on several boards, including Quizlet, Rosetta Stone, and the Western Governors University Board of Trustees. So Jessie, if you'd like to introduce yourself.
Hi, Kat. I'm very happy to join you today. I'm not quite sure what you want me to say for introductions. I'm just an innovator that really understands that talent is the most important ingredient for success in any kind of innovation, and certainly learning innovation. So I'm happy to talk with you today about all that.
Thank you. Yeah, that sounds very exciting. I also forgot to introduce myself. I'm Kat, and Hillary is our other moderator today. Hillary.
Hi, I'm Hillary. I'm a senior at MIT. Yeah.
Nice to meet you, Hillary. So do you want me to tell you a little bit about DreamBox? Is that what you want, Kat?
Oh, yeah, that would be great. Sorry. Yeah,
it's okay.
I just left you hanging
good.
there.
It's all good. So DreamBox Learning is an adaptive learning company. We pioneered what we call intelligent adaptive learning in 2006. And over the course of the past 10 years, have served over 5 million kids, K through 8, to help them learn mathematics. Now, the platform was designed to be age, grade, and content agnostic. So although we focus on mathematics right now, we actually believe that the next generation of learning is going to be very engaging. It'll tap into some gaming protocols. It's going to be very personalized. It's going to be all about the individual learner to keep them exactly where they need to be. And it's going to work. It's going to be effective. And so we're really excited that technology can come into the learning space to deliver mass customization at scale. At the same time, we inspire, especially young learners, to be lifelong learners.
Awesome. So talking a little bit more about inspiration, you inspire learners for a better future, but we want to go a little bit more into what inspired you to go into this route of educational technology. If you could please elaborate more on maybe your career trajectory, because for such an idea to be conceived such as big as this, to serve up to maybe 5 million users, you need to have some sort of trajectory for you to get there. So can you please elaborate more on that?
Thank you for that question, Hillary. Oftentimes when I talk to young, promising people like the folks you have on this call, many of them believe that people like me end up where we are because we have this master plan. From the time we were 14 years old, we knew what had to happen by 18, by 25, by 30. It's all balderdash. What I tell young people is to prepare yourself for luck when luck presents itself. So what you have to do is work really, really hard, become really good at least one thing, if not two things, and find that thing that you really love, that you're willing to do when the probability of success is really, really low. That thing you're willing to do, even when it's super, super hard, you're not successful and you still enjoy doing it. So for me, I started my career in banking. I was in New York City. I was working on the sexy third world debt restructuring. Ooh, so sexy. And I found that I was a little bored. It didn't matter. Success, doing well in that just wasn't feeding me. So I started tutoring kids. I said, I learned growing up. I'm one of 7 kids. My father came here from another country, from Haiti in 1956. He came to this country because he believed that with education, with the support of family, and he would say his faith, there was really nothing he could do, even though he was a Black man in a world that did not yet recognize his humanity as much as he would have liked. And so I started tutoring. I took the A train up to Harlem and tutored middle school kids. These were kids who were in really tough socioeconomic situations. They were surrounded by poverty and scarcity. And yet, these were some of the most innovative, brilliant people that I'd ever encountered. And it was very abundantly clear to me at that time that talent existed everywhere, but opportunity did not. And I had been the beneficiary of some of the best educational opportunities, but I knew, speaking to these middle schoolers, that they were much more innovative, they were much more creative, they were much more capable than I would have been, and they were doing amazing things in a position of scarcity that I dare say I would never have been able to do. So I said, well, what's the difference between their life trajectory and my life trajectory? Opportunity and a little bit of luck. So I decided that I was going to step off banking. I called my parents. I said, I know what I'm going to do with the rest of my life. They're like, what is it? I said, I'm going to go into education. What kind of education? You're going to get a PhD? I said, no. Why do immigrant parents always want you to get a PhD? I don't know. I said, no. Well, are you going to start a company? I don't think so. Oh, you're going to be poor. No, I might not be poor. I'm going to have a different kind of wealth. So I didn't really know at that time in the late 90s, EdTech was not what it is today. And when you told people you were going to work in EdTech, they usually told you should go get some kind of, psychological reassessment, because people with advanced degrees from premier universities didn't do that. And they certainly didn't leave banking to do that. So what I would say to you and to your audience is, life is short, shorter than you might think. Find something that feeds you. Find something that you feel you can't not do. Find something that you can have an impact in, that you can lay your head down on a pillow and have joy, even if it's really hard. Because if you do that, my bet is that good things will come to you. So I started out at Kaplan right at the time when Kaplan was taking its paper and pencil assessments. Many of you have probably taken an SAT or PSAT or GMAT, and they were digitizing these. So the first generation of education technologies was just digitizing formerly flat things like quizzes and worksheets and Kaplan test prep. That's not what we're talking about now. This new era of EdTech is really leveraging technologies, nuanced, adaptable technologies that have been developed over the course of many, many years in the private sector. So in April of 2010, Reed Hastings, who is Reed, the CEO of Netflix, he had the chance to see an early version of DreamBox Learning. And it was a B2C value proposition, and it was serving very affluent kids, oftentimes the sons and daughters of Microsoft millionaires, to give them an edge in school. And while Reed thought it was something that was transformational, he felt like it was something that could potentially widen the gap between the haves and the have-nots. So he bought the assets of the company with the aspiration that he was going to move it from a B2C model to a B2B model, and to take it where all kids could have access to it, regardless of their station in life, regardless of their zip code, we like to say. So he brought me in after I had some stints at Kaplan and Blackboard and LeapFrog. And he said, I want you to do what you did in those places. I want you to help us scale this so that we can bring it into schools for all kids. So I'm not a founder. I was there when I joined, there were probably 11 full-time people at DreamBox. Many, many years ago. We have about 400 people now. We have 4 offices. We have business in in districts in every state in the country, all throughout Canada and Mexico now. And we just recently did an acquisition of a reading company. So now we have pre-K through 12 reading and K through 8 math, and we'll probably expand the math to match the K through 12 reading grade span. So it's been a journey over 10 years, and it's been interesting because in the beginning of this, it was very difficult to find people from places like MIT to bring their talents and their hearts into this space. When I was at Harvard Business School and I told them I was going to take a summer and work for the DC Committee on Public Education, my academic advisor did actually refer me to counseling, because you don't turn down places like McKinsey and other places to go and work for the DC Committee on Public, like, what's wrong with you, woman? So I'm here to say that we've come a long way in 10 years. And now education technology is attracting the best and the brightest, but that's not enough for our work. We have to have people who actually have heart, people who believe that there's some global benefit of democratizing learning opportunity, and people who are willing to work super hard and embrace headwinds, really fierce headwinds, to make sure that every child, regardless of their station in life, has a wonderful opportunity to grow and to thrive and to be all that they can be. And so the smarts is the easy part. There are a lot of smart people in the world. The values-based leaders who want to bring their talents as well as their heart to this, those are the people I want to talk to. Those are the people who can transform the world. Those are the people who are going to make tomorrow better than today. And those are the people who are going to work with me and my team to make sure that every child understands that they're inherently a mathematician. Every child can solve problems. Every child is a lifelong learner, because honestly, my generation hasn't done a very good job, and we're handing your generation and those that come after you a lot of big, hairy, audacious problems to fix, not the least of which is environmental sustainability. And so we have to make sure that students learn how to learn. They can remake their skill sets over and over again. They understand that getting things wrong is the first step to getting it right, and that we inspire them to innovate and see problems through a different prism so that they can see and fix things that my generation has failed to see and fix.
Yeah, sorry, wow, that was super inspiring. And kind of to go back to something you just recently talked about. So we know, as you mentioned, EdTech has really expanded in the last few decades, but I think for many students, it's still hard to say no to places that, like McKinsey, like you said, that maybe have more older clout. So I was curious what advice you give to students who are interested in like pursuing a career in educational technology, but maybe aren't sure if that's like the best career path for them down the line.
So I'd say this, I'd say a couple things. First thing I'd say is think about your career as if it were a novel. No single chapter can and will define you. You're going to have many chapters in your career, and at the end of your career, you're going to have a wonderful, beautiful, exciting novel to share with your kids and your friends. And if you believe that any single chapter is going to define you, you're going to miss a lot of opportunities that come your way. That's the first thing I would say. Novel, not chapter. The second thing I would say is don't manage your career through fear. Manage your career through opportunity. If you're looking at everything saying, oh my gosh, if I don't do that, what will happen? You're managing your career through fear. I will tell you, I can't tell you how many years that I spent working on something that didn't feed me. And I didn't give as much to it. I didn't grow as much. I didn't develop as much. So find the thing that feeds you. And it doesn't have to be your primary career choice, but make sure it's part of what you're doing to build skills. It might start off as a startup. It might start off as a volunteer endeavor. But make sure you're doing things that are worthy of your spirit and of your heart. That's the second thing I would say. The third thing I would say is adopt a growth mindset. There was a time when I went to Harvard Business School that the generalist was a thing. Be a GM, be a GM. Commit yourself to being really good at something. I call them power lanes. Every time I interview somebody at DreamBox, I ask them to tell me, what is your power lane? The thing that you can do regardless of stage of company, industry, quality of team, size of team. What is that thing you know you can do supremely well, even under duress? That is your power lane. Make sure you have at least one of those. And then I ask them, what are your emerging lanes? Sometimes they say, you mean, what are the things I'm not good at? I said, I'm not here to tell you what you're not good at. Because if you're not good at something, I want you to add one word to the end of that statement. Yet. Because if you decide that that's something you want to become really great at, you can endeavor to become great at that. Don't let anyone ever tell you what you're not good at. If someone says you're not good at something, smile and tell them yet, even if you agree with them. So understand what your power lanes are, determine what they are, cultivate them intentionally, and have at least one, if not two, while you develop your emerging lanes. The next thing I would tell people is make sure that you are always in that growth mindset and you're learning from people. And don't think you can only learn from really great leaders. I had the great privilege of working for 8 years for Reed Hastings. I've learned amazing lessons from him. I also had the opportunity to work for leaders I didn't admire as much, and I learned from them as well. So if you embrace a philosophy of constantly learning, you will continue to grow and thrive, and you will develop those power lanes and maybe multiple power lanes. And the last thing I would say for people who are thinking about their career path is don't put so much pressure on you to have all the answers right now. Anyone who tells you in their old age that they had all the answers is not being honest or has a really bad memory. I think young people put so much pressure on themselves to have all the right answers now that it prevents them from discovering the things that they truly love. How do you know what inspires you if you don't try and discover things that you loathe? So you have to experience the things you dislike in order to truly appreciate what you do like. It's almost like dating. Like you have to have a couple duds in there in order for you to really appreciate the gem when you actually find them. So don't put so much pressure on yourself to have everything figured out, because the journey is as important as the end goal. The journey is as important.
Awesome. Those are some really wonderful gems of wisdom, to be honest. Yeah, so I just wanted to go back just a few. You're talking about maybe the things that you mentioned, or things that the advice that you're giving, also you're expecting it maybe also from the people that you work with. Primarily, you just mentioned before that you want to work with people that have heart, people that are driven, and also people that are smart in a way. And maybe these are some components that make up a successful company, you would say. And you're saying that being in the field of EdTech for 10 years now and growing DreamBox Learning from such a small to a company, maybe such a where it is now in the 10-year span that you've been. Can you tell us maybe what makes a company successful in this field of EdTech from your own experience of leading several EdTech companies as well?
So when I got out of business school, I would have probably answered that question differently. I would have said, the great companies are those that have delivered great shareholder value. And those companies that deliver great shareholder value are in a position to really innovate. And those companies that innovate and do really cool things are in a position to attract the best talent. Sounds pretty good, right? Upside down. The best companies are those that understand out of the gate that talent is the most important variable for success. Talent is the most important variable for success. My job as CEO is to create positive gravity so that the best minds and the best hearts bring their talents to DreamBox. That's the most important thing that I do every day. And right now, especially the SaaS world is starting to appreciate that the pendulum is swinging from leverage from employer to employee. And I tell my executive team every day, we have to earn the privilege of working with the amazing people at DreamBox Learning. We have to earn that privilege over and over every day. And as soon as we start believing that we don't have to earn it, we're going to lose that talent. And we have an amazing brain trust at DreamBox. And I know that those people get calls every day. I get calls every day. So we have to make sure that we are helping people to grow themselves, and that our job as leaders is to inspire more than it is to manage. We have to lead instead of manage. We have to inspire instead of manage. If you hire right, then you can get out of people's way and they can find the pathway to innovation. The other thing I would say is that you have to create an innovation culture. So a lot of times people think about agile for product development. And it's got great applications in product development. But I would encourage each of you to try to find organizations that embrace an agile philosophy across the whole organization. So find somebody, leaders, who ask you, what's the biggest mistake you've made since the last time we spoke? What did you learn from it? And if you have people who are saying, oh, I haven't made any mistakes, then they're not pressing the envelope far enough. Because you all know in an agile philosophy that, making mistakes sparks innovation. When we form hypotheses and then we find that those hypotheses don't turn out, why didn't they turn out? I expected it to happen this way and it didn't happen this way. And that's how innovation is sparked. One of our values at DreamBox is benevolent friction. We like to be hard on ideas, but soft on people. And we feel like if we have a pretty good idea and we're pretty confident is a great idea, if we're willing to subject it to the scrutiny of people who share our values and share our belief in our mission to unlock the learning potential of every child, then the risk is worth it, because your pretty good idea might turn out to be a great idea once you subject it to the scrutiny of people who are really smart and who share your goals and your mission, your values. The last thing I would say about really great companies is you get stuff wrong. As leaders, you get stuff wrong. And you have to be willing to tell people and fess up when you get things wrong. You're not supposed to have all the answers. If you feel like you're supposed to have all the answers, then you're underestimating how smart the talent is whom you serve. People know you don't have answers. I remember when COVID hit, it was crazy. No one knew who was going out of business, who was going to survive, are we going to be able to sell, who was going to get sick. I mean, like, not everything, the earth was shaking beneath everybody. And I had people who came to me and said, oh, you gotta instill confidence. You gotta let everybody know things are going to be okay. And I'm like, I don't know if things are going to be okay. If I get up in front of my whole company, I tell them everything's going to be okay, they're going to start laughing at me. They're smart. They know I don't know. So I got up in front of the company and I said, look, there was no test for COVID. There was no preparation for COVID. We have no idea what's going to happen with this COVID thing. There are a lot of things we don't control. So we're not going to focus on the things we can't control. We're going to focus on the things we can control. And we're going to be guided by 3 principles. Principle 1, we're going to take care of each other. We're going to make sure we have safe and secure environments, because if people are worried about their safety and security, they're not going to innovate. They're not going to take care of our customers. So principle number 1, we're going to take care of each other. Principle number 2, we're going to take care of our customers. Our customers are dealing with things they have never anticipated before. Overnight, there was radical change in education. Districts shut down, classes shut down. Moms and dads became teachers as well as full-time employees if they were lucky. And so we had to adapt, and we had to figure out what can we do to support our customers during this typhoon. Well, how are we going to know what to do? We're going to call them. We're going to ask them what we can do to help them. We're going to let our customers be our weather vane. The third principle was, if we take care of each other and we take care of our customers, we will be taking care of our company, and that we will be delivering shareholder value. And we doubled the number of students on the platform during COVID. We had historically high levels of growth. And it's not just because of COVID. There were a lot of companies in the EdTech space who went out of business during COVID. And we had dramatic growth during COVID. And we had historically low attrition, less than 2% attrition during COVID. Unheard of. And I think that we don't always learn this lessons as leaders, that there is power in vulnerability. So assume people are smart, oftentimes smarter than you are. Assume people know what you think they don't know, which is that you don't know everything, and admit it and ask them for help. And so we did some of our most impactful innovation during the time of COVID. We launched our first data and analytics product called DreamBox Predictive Insights. And that was inspired because we knew that all the kids were gone from classes and districts, and at some point they were going to go back to school. And when they went back to school, their district administrators and teachers were going to have to ascertain very quickly what happened during COVID while they were out. Did they advance? Did they slow down? Did they experience learning loss? what do we do to modify our instructional strategy based on where students are when they come back? They had to ascertain that really quickly. And now with DreamBox Predictive Insights, with 3 hours on the platform, we have 90% accuracy about which kids are on track for end of year success and which kids are not. That innovation would never have happened if we didn't have the pressure. If we didn't have the pressure of COVID. So I tell my team, don't be afraid of pressure. Without pressure, carbon remains carbon. It takes pressure to move carbon to diamonds. So let's innovate from the pressure. Let's not fear it. Let's embrace it. Let's get on the other side of it. And because of that, we have a market-leading innovation in data and analytics that would never have been birthed if we didn't have the crisis of COVID.
Yeah, thank you for that. I think it's really cool to see how DreamBox has adapted in like such a tough time for everybody, especially for like students who all did go home. I saw it myself. My brother was not doing school very much at home.
Yeah.
And it's cool to see that you guys really embraced like the pressure of being in a COVID workplace and environment. Because I think for a lot of companies, maybe it was let's just push through until the pandemic is over and then we'll get back to our normal lives. But I think it's cool to see that you guys have like fully adapted and produced new things to help us live easier in this world. Yeah, so kind of rolling it back a little bit or to a new topic.
Yeah.
We were curious how you think we as a society can make opportunities like DreamBox and other EdTech more accessible to students who need it the most, like areas where maybe there's not so much technology available to students in like primary school or elementary school and stuff.
So I will tell you that there wasn't much good that came from COVID, but one of the things that did come from COVID is a near ubiquitous access of devices and broadband. Now, there's still the last mile. There are still rural communities and some urban communities that don't have the devices and don't have broadband. And there are some even just suburban communities that don't have enough broadband. We all learned that lesson when you have 3 siblings in the home and you have 2 working parents, just don't have enough broadband. So we're learning that lesson as well. But I think it's really important for us to first anchor ourselves in the belief that just because somebody is in a position of scarcity, it doesn't mean that they can't learn and they won't learn. And we are proving that over and over again with our implementations in Compton, California, in Prince George's County, Maryland, in Shelby County, Tennessee. Some of the least well-served populations for generations are experiencing success with math on DreamBox. It's really inspirational. So what I think we have to do is try to see ourselves in everyone. If we can see ourselves in everyone, we'll be more compassionate. If we can see ourselves in everyone, we won't be fear-driven, and we will get more proximate to our customers, even if they live differently than we. And if we see ourselves in everyone, that proximity will lead to a deeper understanding, and that deeper understanding will lead to empathy. The best businesses, in my mind, are those that create empathetic experiences, empathetic products, because we're so close to our customer that we know not only what they say they need, but we understand and anticipate what they aspire to be, what they aspire to experience, what they aspire to do. There was a time when Apple didn't go and say, do you guys want one of these? They didn't say that, right? They were innovating before people even had a notion of iTunes, before they had a new notion of an iPhone. So they were able to innovate and bring to market things that had not yet been conceived in the mind of the consumer. And that's because they were proximate to the marketplace. They were proximate to the customer, and they understood customer aspiration. So we talk about the science, we talked about CX, we talk about a lot of things. That's nuts and bolts. Engineering and coding and all those things are very important. But we should never forget the importance of being proximate to our customer so that we can develop empathetic experiences for them. We're customer whisperers. The best companies will be customer whisperers.
Awesome. Also, yeah, just wanted to go back a little bit. Since the beginning of our chat, there's been a recurring theme that is opportunity, opportunity, opportunity. And you once mentioned about your father coming into this country from Haiti, and also talking about that back then, maybe they didn't have the same opportunity as maybe we have now in terms of everything that has happened in the last decades or so. I just wanted to ask, maybe from your own experience, how being a woman of color has impacted your experience in the EdTech industry and just in leadership positions in general. And also, I just want to ask you how maybe we can increase inclusivity and diversity in EdTech companies or in STEM in general.
So I appreciate this question, because I think a lot of people in the wake of the murder of George Floyd have taken a more intentional posture about DEI. I like to call it DEIJ, adding justice to the end of that. But there are different approaches that companies use, and I like to think of them along two vectors. One is a vertical approach. They label somebody their DEI expert, and they say, go do the DEI thing, without really knowing what it is. And so you have one person that's thinking about it, and they're poking people in the organization saying, DEI, DEI, have you done DEI? That's a start. That I don't think that's fluency. There's another group of companies, and I think DreamBox is one of them, that takes a horizontal approach to DEIJ. DEIJ is in everything that we do. From the time we get up in the morning, to the first conversation we have with recruits, to what we do and how we do it when we're in team meetings, to how our software presents to end users, to our the people that we purchase services from. We don't believe we will be as successful if we don't have diversity of point of view present at the table. This isn't something we do because it's a favor to people. We do something because it's in our self-interest to do it. The world is becoming browner. There are more women coming into places of authority. Customers are becoming browner. They're speaking a lot more languages. It makes no sense to have a homogeneous approach to business and to innovation. You won't win over the long term. And so we have a vertical approach to DEI. We think it is inextricably linked to our relevance and to our forward success. So we have no apologies for it. We've been practicing this forever. And as an example, at DreamBox, every Tuesday, our chief learning officer, who happens to be a white male from St. Louis, hosts a DEI forum. And he asks people to come and bring their life experiences and share their life experiences. And he asks people what we should be doing differently in education. And it's just a forum for dialogue. It is the most highly attended gathering at DreamBox every month, because it's touching people's hearts, because people care about it. And we've had people who said, I'm terrified, I'm going to say the wrong term. What do I do? I have no idea how my people of color colleagues are experiencing this Floyd thing. I don't know what to do to support. So it's a very vulnerable, remember I said the power of vulnerability, it's a very vulnerable space, but it's an authentic space. And there's power in that vulnerability. And so DEI is a practice. It's a humanitarian practice. It's not some HR goal that you just report statistics around. It's something that you live and you bring to life in our software, in our culture, and in our future.
Yeah, I really liked what you said about horizontally introducing it to your company and like making company decisions with intention, and being sure to address DEI at every step of the way, instead of just maybe like shunting the responsibility off to one person in the company and like being like, oh, we have X, Y, Z in this role, so we are addressing all the problems, which, you know, just isn't how it works.
Yeah.
Yeah. To kind of piggyback off that question, do you think, or how do you think we as like individuals in STEM can make sure to introduce diversity into our like STEM learning environments in general?
So there's an African-American leader who runs Ariel Capital, and it is a Black-owned investment company based in Chicago. His name is John Rogers. And John Rogers challenged Black directors of public companies to embrace the 3 Ps in their efforts to improve DEI. The first P is people. You have to make sure that people are present, but that people are promoted, people are listened to, people feel included. It has to be part of that culture we were just talking about. People is the first P. The second P is looking at purchasing. So think about 3M or IBM or Amazon, or think about how many of those companies are actually intentional about making sure when they have partners in their supply chain or the people they buy pens from or whatever, that they're consultants, that they're considering women-owned and minority-owned businesses. Second P is purchasing. How is your purchasing being impacted by your values around DEI? And the third P is philanthropy. What do you do outside of work to try to support DEI initiatives through your philanthropy? How intentional are you with where you give your marginal dollar of philanthropy? And so he's asked all of us to make sure that when we're asked about DEI, that we articulate the 3 Ps so that this can gain momentum and people can have a framework for how to bring to life and create sustainable efforts around DEI. People, purchase, philanthropy. We try to hold ourselves to that at DreamBox.
Sounds good. Thank you so much for this wonderful session. And that's all from our kind of questions that we had lined up for you. Maybe we might open up to the floor of the panel to see if there are more questions from people listening to us.
Yeah, I think there are several questions on our Slido.
Uh-oh, I'm in trouble.
Yeah, so these are audience generated questions. So some of the people watching on Zoom and some of the people on YouTube have kind of submitted questions throughout the last 30, 40-ish minutes.
Okay.
And some of them already have thumbs up. So I might start with one of those. Caroline asks, what do you think are the most pressing problems in education right now? And I guess, like, where do you think DreamBox fits in as like one of the solutions?
Yeah, I think about this a lot, and I'll mention 2. There are many, but I'll mention 2. The first is we have to make sure that students are engaged. I don't know why we took all the fun out of learning. Think about when you were in kindergarten or Montessori. Remember how fun it was? Like, we encouraged kids to be curious. You were able to do things in groups. You worked on projects together that stimulated your creativity. And then fast forward to middle school, you're bored out of your gourd. We've got to re-engage students. We have to seek to delight and surprise students, to cultivate and reward curiosity, to take the sting out of getting things wrong. And we've got to engage students. If we can engage students, then we will cultivate lifelong learners. And I think that in the average classroom, you have a lot of students who are frustrated or bored because they're not getting the content that they need at the time that they need it. What we know about learning science is that if you can keep students in their proximal zone of development, that's when learning happens optimally. And if you're a teacher, the best teacher with the best resource classroom, how do you deliver every one of your 25 students exactly what they need when they need it? It's impossible. So we have to bring technology in to support the learning guardian. We have to bring technology in to actually do what technology does best, which is mass customization at scale, which is engagement. Find out why students love to use Fortnite and bring some of those qualities into education. It's not that hard. Let's make it engaging. Let's have embedded rewards. Let's give students a reason to stay and to come back. And then let's share some data with actionable insights with the learning guardian. So the learning guardian in the classroom or outside the classroom can know exactly where we are on our learning path and then customize her live instruction to fit exactly what we need when we need it. If we can get everybody and keep everybody in their proximal zone of development, we will really catapult learning and learning opportunity. We do that at scale on the platform, which we call intelligent adaptive learning. The second is, think about how tired everybody is because of the pandemic. Think about your parents, Kat, when the kids are at home, like, people are tired. Think about how tired teachers are. They're worried about their safety. They have no idea how to manage in a COVID environment when everybody isn't vaccinated. And they are not given a lot of agency in how to orchestrate their classroom. And we are surprised that teachers are leaving the practice in droves. We shouldn't be surprised. So the second thing I would say is we have to figure out a way to delight and surprise the learning guardian and allow them to learn as adults, the same way we are helping students to be delighted and surprised in the learning environment. And if we can do that, and if we can think about teachers as learning engineers instead of as teachers, maybe we will recast the relationship between live instruction and data. Maybe we will inspire them to become agents in a creative process in learning, and maybe we will retain more of them in the profession. So we have to engage students, and we have to honor and respect teachers as learning engineers, and to create safe places for them to get better at their craft.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think I remember in my middle school, there were classes of almost 30 people. And I can't even begin to imagine how much effort it was for those teachers to make sure all of their students were learning at their own rate, but also, progressing in their education.
Exactly.
Awesome. Maybe we might have time to take one more question. And this was anonymous, but they will say, I'll just kind of like give a context to it. And, as humans or as people, we're constantly moving forward, and we always look forward to something else, maybe a dream or a goal in mind. And we just want to know maybe what are your goals for DreamBox and yourself in the near future.
I will tell you that when I see a child on a platform that's not engaging and that doesn't work, I feel like I failed that child. Any student who doesn't have an engaging and effective learning experience that's hyper-personalized suffers in my mind. So my goal is to reduce suffering, and in doing so, to unlock the learning potential of every child. And I think if we can unlock the learning potential of every child, regardless of their station in life, we can unleash human capability at a global level. So my ambition for DreamBox is not only in the continental United States and North America. There are kids in South Korea, there are kids in Asia, there are kids in Africa, there are kids everywhere that we can serve. So my goal is to do well in order to do good at a global scale. So we have to create a sustainable company that fuels innovation, that continues to attract the best and the brightest talent, so that we can serve more students and more teachers and achieve our impact goals. So that's my small ambition for DreamBox Learning. Personally, I want to inspire the likes of you all to work through the cobwebs of fear that you're going to pick something for your parents, or you're going to pick something for the prestige, and you're going to subordinate the thing that really lights your fire. And I want to encourage you, and it doesn't matter, remember chapters. You can have your McKinsey chapter, you can have your investment banking chapter, like I'm living proof of that. But I hope that it will never prevent you from taking some risk and bringing your best self to a really hard problem, because the world needs you all more now than ever. Pick your problem: environmental sustainability, systematic racism, like pick your problem, there's plenty of them, and bring your best self to it in a sustainable way to make a difference in this world. I would encourage all of you to think about the impact you can have on your communities and on this world, because the world needs you more than ever.
Wow, that was really inspiring. And I think, it's really good to hear how your experience of like going from banking back into education has made you even more passionate about being in EdTech. And I think we all can agree that we hope more people might consider this as an option also. I do think we have a little more time, and this is a question I'm also curious about. Also anonymous. There's a lot of anonymous here, but this is yeah, so they're asking, what are some innovative technologies you've seen recently that you're excited to see brought to the classroom? So yeah, pushing outside of Dreambox a little.
Yeah, this is a double-edged sword. I was speaking at a GeekWire event a couple years ago, and the CEO was talking about his company and how that company had technology that could measure pupil dilation very easily. And they used it as a proxy for engagement. And I followed him on the speaker circuit, and someone asked me, are you going to bring the pupil dilation technology to Dreambox Learning? You're always talking about engaging students. And I was sitting there thinking about kindergartners with a strap over their head with something looking into to measure their pupil dilation. And so here's what I would say about innovation. I believe that we're going to continue to bring innovative, adaptive, personalized, engaging technologies from the private sector into the learning space. We're doing that at Dreambox Learning. But what we really need are values-based leaders at the helm to make sure that what we do bring into education is what we should bring into education rather than what we could bring into education. And so I have a lot of people around me, my personal board of directors, who poke me when I'm tempted by AI innovations and machine learning innovations to make sure that our ultimate mission will be served. Because there are many technologies that we can leverage. The question is, which ones should we leverage in order to unlock the learning potential of every child?
Yeah, I think that's, you make a really good point where, like, these buzzwords in CS aren't necessarily what's right for every company, because you also have to be aware of where your product is going and who the target market is. So it's good to see that you like take that in stride and you're not, pushing the envelope too far. Yeah,
that gets back to testing and innovation, Kat. Like, we should test a lot of things, and then we should get proximate to our customer and really observe the impact on our customer. And if the impact isn't positive, we should have the courage to walk away from it, even if we think we can monetize it. That's what I mean by values-based leaders.
Yeah, I think the image of the kindergartners with the pupil scan, that's very
that's not
yeah, it's not what I would envision as an ideal learning environment. But yeah, I think that just about wraps up. Yeah, we do have some other questions, but I think we're good to call it a day here. So
well, listen, I'll close by just saying this. I'm looking forward to seeing all the amazing things you're going to achieve individually and collectively. And just know that what I said was really true. The world needs you and all that you represent more than ever. So go explore each chapter. Just make sure that one of those chapters is EdTech.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, that was a really great session. I really enjoyed it, and I think I learned a lot. And I hope everyone else did too. So thank you so much for joining us, Jessie. It was really great to have you.
Enjoy. Continued success. Have some fun. All right. Bye-bye.
Awesome.
Is the stream ended?
I think it's still live.
Yep.